often people giving the advice of what to do or what not to do aren't the ones who are directly impacted. They're sometimes thinking about their own situation or what's manageable for them or what's suitable for them. And which teenager doesn't love a day off from school? That is the ultimate rebellion, isn't it? Looking evil in the eyes and saying no. Not going to be silent. I love being around Irish people, and I have so many Irish friends, including a donkey. One of the things that we need to notify you at the beginning of this video is that there will be a guarantee coming up later in this video towards the end. And it's important that that guarantee is understood, especially given the work that we have to undertake and the support that's necessary. That guarantee is really important for everyone watching this video package to understand and appreciate, especially the gravity of it, but also the vital role that you can play, a really meaningful role that you can play in ensuring that the risks and impacts of such a situation for someone are minimal. You can play a very vital role once you understand this guarantee. It's March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, a national holiday in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, as well as a few other locations around the world. St. Patrick's Day is the most widely celebrated national holiday around the world, where there is significant events and activities happening in Ireland itself, the United Kingdom, Australia and New Zealand, the United States, and even Brazil and Argentina, as well as Canada, are places where the holiday has great significance. For me personally, March 17th has a lot of meaningfulness because I went to a St. Patrick's High School in the United States, and whenever it's March 17th, we've got the day off because we're St. Patrick's High School. And which teenager doesn't love a day off from school? So it's a great time for me to remember my friends from high school. But also whenever I reflect back on March 17th and St. Patrick's Day, I'm always reminded of the history of Ireland. And especially given in the times that we're living in now, with a lot of events that are happening around the world, and especially in the last few days or the last week, the collection of activities that have happened, it's just become a lot more profound. Revisiting some of the history of Ireland, specifically the Troubles. The Troubles is a period from the late 60s till 1998 where there was a lot of unrest in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland.
Oh, speaking of pupils who need to watch their back, I'd like to introduce James Maguire. Show yourself please, James. James will be the first ever boy to study here at Our Lady Immaculate College. He was due to start at Christian Brother Boys, but there were serious concerns for his safety because, well, unfortunately, James happens to be English.
A lot of lives were lost, well over 3,500 lives, over 50,000 casualties. More than half of these losses and casualties were just citizens innocently murdered or killed through the fighting and conflicts and things happening in Ireland itself. And there's a history of other attacks and catastrophes happening in England and in other parts of Europe. One of the most significant ones was a bombing of a conference centre hotel in Brighton, where at the time the Conservative Party of the United Kingdom was holding their conference. And the Prime Minister at the time, Margaret Thatcher, was present. So it was a very difficult period. But in the discussions of all the things that are happening in this incident between one military outfit versus another, one group versus another, the thing that gets universal sort of respect and empathy is what the Irish people themselves had to go through. Citizens at time living in a lot of worry and fear. Truly a period of a solid 30 years, near enough, where a lot of unrest, a lot of uneasiness, and fear for a lot of Irish people. But one of the great things that this period has taught us, and this is why I love being around Irish people, and I have so many Irish friends, including a donkey. A friend of mine has a donkey that they have from Ireland, and I consider that donkey a friend. One of the profound things that you can take away from this experience that Irish people went through, and it's really sort of encapsulated in this wonderful TV series called Derry Girls, is keeping a sense of humor at times, as dark and as disturbing times may be. When there is an opportunity to laugh, don't miss it. The Irish, as I'm taught by them, have this wonderful phrase called having a crack, which means cracking a joke and so on and so forth, but they call it the crack.
Every year I sit backstage listening to the singers, and it really makes me realise just how talented the professionals who originally recorded these tracks were.
So if you really love me, come on and let it show.
Did I not ban this one?
Let me see. And it's love, the power of love. All you need is love. How deep is your love? It must have been love. I want to know what love is. I will always love you. No, sister, you didn't.
There'll be no end, 'cause on my love you can depend.
Put on the list.
When you watch this wonderful TV series, Derry Girls, you get a mix of the heightened tension, the drama, and the unease, as well as the comedy or the jokes and the humor that existed as a mechanism to get by during this difficult time. So from the late 60s till 1998, this unrest was happening in Ireland, and interestingly enough, in the United States in 1979, a location known as 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. It's interesting, it's just a coincidence, it wasn't chosen for this video for that reason, but 3 Mile Island is a nuclear plant that was located in a township called Londonderry, most likely named after the Irish Londonderry.
And today we welcome some very special guests, the Waynes from Chernobyl, who've come over to give their wee lungs a bit of a clear out, because sure, there's all sorts wafting about in their neck of the woods. Sister.
Lovely job so far, Seamus, but keep it moving. Rawhide's on in 15 minutes. Now, one might well question the wisdom of sending you here, of all places. Out of the frying pan into the, well, maybe not the fire, but certainly a different type of frying pan. Or some sort of wok, at the very least. But please, don't worry yourselves too much about the whole civil war, sectarian conflict carry-on. There's really only one thing you need to know. We're the goodies.
In March of 1979, there was a nuclear meltdown.
An accident at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant, which is located on an island in the Susquehanna River, 10 miles from Harrisburg.
The cooling system broke down this morning. Some radioactive steam escaped into the air. Radiation was detected a mile away from the plant.
And that caused a lot of unrest for people living in the area as well. Having to immediately rush away and move away from their homes and move to other parts of the country. And now with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, your heart really goes out to the Ukrainian people and the absolutely immense suffering that they're going through. Those lives lost, those people still in the Ukraine, and those who have had to flee for their safety. It requires a lot of understanding and empathy for what those people are having to go through. Any person going through any difficulty, any trauma, should be given an extensive level of kindness and understanding for what they're going through, and not have their burden added to. And now you just had on March 16th, and I'm sure it'll be covered further in the news today and over the next few days, is the situation of Nazanin Radcliffe, an Iranian woman married to a British man who simply went to visit her family in Iran and was held in prison there for more than 6 years, in house arrest, prison in various forms, and has just been freed on March 16th, and will have arrived by the time this video airs. This woman was put under immense stress, pressure, was feeling suicidal at times, undertook a hunger strike, and just the torture, regardless of the direct torture, just the mental torture of being in those circumstances and not knowing what your future is going to be like, as well as for her husband. Even though he's here in the United Kingdom, he's in a more safer location. The tremendous amount of stress and trauma that he's going through, being disconnected from the woman that he loves and the child that he's distant from, and he himself went on an extensive hunger strike as well. What you see in these situations, or the common thing that connects them, is people being impacted by external events, the actions of people external to them, external to their community, external to their household, causing tremendous amounts of grief through their actions. It's extremely difficult to sort of process what they may be going through. But so many people experience trauma in different ways. It's wonderful that Ireland is now in a place where they can enjoy St. Patrick's Day much more comfortably and safely than back in that period during the late 60s to 1998. Another thing to say about the 3 Mile Island situation is the unrest and suffering that those people went through, having to relocate, has become over time a basis for a lot of psychological study, and many of the things that we sort of understand now as everyday psychology are rooted in the study of the experiences of the people who were victims or impacted, let's say, by the 3 Mile Island incident in Pennsylvania. Just to add in another element, a certain Thomas Edward Patrick Brady.
And my goodness, who do we have here? Skip Bayless!
Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. is back. Your worst nightmare is back. You're going to have a long season next year. Woo!
Wow. That applause lasted longer than Tom Brady's retirement. That's right. Yesterday, Tom Brady called off his retirement and announced that he will return next season to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's right. That's right. Basically, Brady saw gas prices and said, back to work.
Tom Brady, an American football quarterback, hence who has Irish roots, has Patrick in his name. There's value to be taken from his life experience as well. In fact, Tom Brady's father is Irish, hence the Brady surname, and Tom Brady's great-grandparents, I believe, moved over to the United States during the Great Famine that occurred in Ireland. And even these troubles that Ireland experienced from those late 60s to 1998, the roots of that conflict and the division go back to the 1600s. So there's a lot of... Ireland has come a long way through a lot of difficult times, and whether things were out of their control or within their control, it's great to see Ireland flourishing. And I'm really appreciative of so many of the wonderful Irish people that I know, and I hope they have a fantastic St. Patrick's Day. But Tom Brady himself, Mr. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, he's had to face a lot of adversity as well, from his days at Michigan University, having to be behind many other quarterbacks vying for the lead starting position, being underrated coming out of college and being picked 199th overall in what is the NFL draft. So 198 players selected before him, 6 quarterbacks selected before him, and everyone missed the potential that was there. Everyone overlooked that. And he stuck to his guns. He believed in himself. He did the work that was necessary. And rather than allow external factors and people to control his destiny, as much control as they did have, he did whatever he could to make sure he was given consideration. And when he was given his opportunity, he showed up and is arguably seen as one of the greatest sports players of all time, having won a significant number of more championships to any of his peers in the NFL. But including Tom Brady, or as we say, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, given it's St. Patrick's Day, in this video package, there are reasons for it. Some are relevant as explained. Others will become more relevant in a few months' time. There is a purpose to what we're doing and why we're doing it, why we're even talking about St. Patrick's Day. Will become clear in the future. But for now, let's analyze and examine these situations that we've presented. And remember, we do have a particular guarantee that we want you to pay attention to and really appreciate later on. What links the initial 4 events that we mentioned, the troubles in Ireland, the 3 Mile Island incident, the current conflict in Ukraine, and the Nazanin Radcliffe situation, is that all of these, as they were occurring or are occurring, are in the public eye. They were never hidden. While Nazanin Radcliffe is suffered in silence at times, plenty of attention existed about her situation. And it's because of that intention, because the valiant efforts by her husband and all those who have supported him, maybe not celebrating is not the right word, but are experiencing the relief of being reunited. But when your ordeal, especially during the ordeal, is being covered, is being reported, the suffering that you're going through is highlighted in some way, it does help. Suffering in silence or in the dark and no one knowing what's happening to a person, that can be a lot more difficult to deal with. But knowing that millions of people are paying attention to your situation, that helps. It helps move things towards resolutions a lot faster. Just yesterday on March 16th, when Richard Radcliffe, Nazanin's husband, was being interviewed, he talked a lot about this debate between making the situation with Nazanin transparent or keeping it low-key, and how keeping it low-key didn't really help, and that it was necessary to expose it, to bring attention to it, in order to make it move forward. And he had to defy a lot of the advice that was given to him.
The government's advice was to keep a low profile and let quiet diplomacy take its course. Richard says he soon realised that would only prolong their agony.
I think they made a real mistake at the beginning in downplaying what was happening. And that's standard hostage policy, to, you know, downplay it, keep it calm and to quietly negotiate. You know, you had a mum and a baby picked up on holiday. It took the government 18 months to criticise anything in Nazanin's treatment.
This is one of the key important things here. Often people giving the advice of what to do or what not to do aren't the ones who are directly impacted by the situation that another person is suffering. Richard Radcliffe's wife was taken away from him, and that's a personal loss to him. Whether she returns or not isn't a personal loss or a personal effect of any other person outside of their family and friend circle. So sometimes people that are advising, they're sometimes thinking about their own situation or what's manageable for them or what's suitable for them, but they don't really personally suffer or experience any loss either which way. They sometimes just say, well, that's regrettable, or that's a shame, or, I was just simply advising afterwards. People who are personally affected in the situation, they sometimes have to do what they believe is best in order to resolve their suffering, to overcome their suffering. And it's fortunate that after 6 long years, near enough to the day, that Richard Radcliffe and Nazanin Radcliffe and their daughter are reunited again. The other thing that connects all of these situations is that, including the Tom Brady situation, is that it was always an external party that was responsible for the difficulty inflicted to the person suffering or enduring the difficulty that they did. In psychology, many people experience usually one of two types or a mix of two types of psychological experiences when they have mental health difficulties or any pressure or any difficult situation. There are external impacts, as we've discussed, things that a person had no control over, no influence over. However, external events or the actions of others impacted their lives and caused them suffering. Then there are the other types where it's a person and how they react to a situation. You can completely understand that while a person like Nazanin Radcliffe or Irish people during the Troubles, people fleeing the 3 Mile Island incident, and in Ukraine, there's this tremendous difficulty that's been inflicted upon them. And they are reacting to it. And they have no choice but to react to it. Whereas, once again, respecting any person and whatever trauma or grief they may be going through, whereas if someone, let's say they lose a loved one, and they miss them, and that causes a lot of anxiety and upset and emotional distress to them, that's them reacting to a situation in a way that is difficult for them to control. But that reaction stems from them. Other family members may deal with that same loss of that same person in a different way. However, when it comes to the situation that we're talking about here, it is simply about the actions, or the harmful actions, let's be more specific, of external people and their choices causing harm to people who were innocent and had nothing to do with or had no reason to be impacted by that situation other than the simple circumstance of them being in a certain place. With the Tom Brady situation, it's a case of it's a young person by himself looking to achieve a goal and needing support. And he found that through a counselor, I believe, at Us.University, who was able to sort of answer his questions and give him guidance and so on and so forth, to examine things, examine the situation, and eventually make the mark that he did. For a young person or a person enduring any difficulty by themselves, there's two phases that they need to go through in order to overcome their situation. One thing is they need to understand what they need to do to overcome their circumstances. So what actions do they need to do? They need to figure that out. Once they figure that out, then they not only need to undertake those actions, but really commit to ensuring that they undertake those actions extremely effectively to give themselves the best chance of achieving whatever goal or outcome that they wanted to do. Unfortunately, what happens is, because especially when you have young talent who are, have not had enough experience in the world, they sometimes get so lost and trapped in the figuring out of what actions that they need to take that they never get the opportunity to even undertake the rightful actions because they haven't been able to figure them out. And this is where intervention is often necessary, where people with experience, rather than saying go and figure this out yourself, people with experience can help a person break down where they are versus where they want to go, help them understand the situation, help them understand what actions they need to take, and afford them more time to take the actions and undertake the effort, rather than expending a lot of energy trying to figure out a situation that's confusing to them. Not everyone has the luxury of having everything organized and explained to them in a structured manner. And this is a key part of this channel, is to deliver things in a structured way. Another common theme with these situations is prolonged suffering. 30 years of troubles in Ireland, and that's what those innocent citizens had to endure. The 3 Mile Island incident in Londonderry Township, Pennsylvania, while it was a matter of a week or so that people went from the disaster occurring to then abandoning their homes and having to move and so on and so forth, it was 6 years afterwards that people were still experiencing intrusive memories and trauma from the sudden shock of that incident, of having to abandon everything. In the Nazanin Radcliffe situation, while she might have been alone in solitary confinement at times, there were other people in similar circumstances imprisoned in Iran, but that was suffering that she was having to undertake by herself for a period of 6 years. That's an extensive long time to be under such amounts of chronic stress. And one can only hope that she gets the support that she needs. It's great enough that she is back with her family, back in the United Kingdom, but there's still going to be a long journey ahead for her to process everything that's happened and make sense of it and so on and so forth. And just adapt back to the life that she knew. Well, there's a strong likelihood that she'll never, nor her husband, will be able to be completely back in enjoying the life that they knew before. But one hopes that they'll be more closer than they ever were, and more connected than they ever were, and that family of three can just have a wonderful life going forward and move on from this horrific 6-year period that they've had to endure. With the Ukraine incident, while it's quite fresh that the attacks have happened in the last few weeks, once again, just like the 3 Mile Island accident, more than 2 million people have had to flee what they knew as a home, what they knew as their surroundings, and have had to be separated across multiple countries and experiencing a whole new strange existence, with many of them having people, relatives, friends, and family members still stuck back in the Ukraine, and that worry about what dangers face those people that they've left behind. Hence why our understanding, our empathy and humanity is so vital right now for all the Ukrainian people and their friends and family members. With Tom Brady's situation, the suffering or whatever difficulty experienced, it may not have been as dramatic as what the other 4 incidents that we've examined were. However, he was a person by himself, sort of, other than maybe a few close family members and friends. He may have felt in quite a sort of isolated space, but obviously he did overcome. But when you're a young person and you haven't had the experience, or you are maybe not having all the support that you require, things can be quite confusing. You've had a dream to become a professional sports player, an American football quarterback. That was your goal, but your future and your dreams are in the hands of the decisions of other people. That's where the similarities are here. The decisions in all these situations are dependent on other people. It's the choices of people in power that decide whether the situation or the difficulty the situation that a person is experiencing comes to an end. When it comes especially to the initial 4 situations that we've mentioned, the 3 Mile Island situation, the troubles in Ireland, the Nazanin Radcliffe situation, and the current Ukraine crisis, even though a person may be in a safe place for now, or the risk of them being targeted for any specific harm may be low, that lingering risk to life, liberty, and well-being, that uneasiness, that plays a strong part. Any situation, and this is a good way to put it, any situation that causes an inability to rest, to sleep properly, has to be given regard. Any person experiencing any difficulty of no fault of their own, and their sleep is suffering, it has to be given respect and regard. But also the understanding, it's this sort of haunting entity that lingers just on the periphery, and you don't know when it's going to directly come and harm you and impact you. It's a very uncomfortable and troubling situation to find oneself in. Taking aside the Nazanin Radcliffe situation and the experiences of Tom Brady, when you look at the 3 Mile Island incident, the troubles in Ireland and Ukraine, it's a group of people experiencing this suffering. And while the suffering is immense, it does help to be around people that are sharing in that suffering, and that you're not alone by yourself. It doesn't make the suffering any easier in ways, let's say. However, that visual comfort of I'm not alone, there's other people, and because of the numbers, attention will be paid to our situation. That there's going to be a shared understanding between all of us. When people are isolated, whether it's Nazanin Radcliffe, Tom Brady in his difficult situation, or anyone else, when a person feels very isolated, even though that there are people that could understand their difficulty and their reason for suffering, because they're alone with their own thoughts, it's a lot more difficult to deal with and process by yourself. Will anyone understand you? Will anyone actually help you? Does anyone understand your situation? Will they be able to sort of help you? And this is why a lot of situations lead to those horrible ultimate outcomes. Nazanin Radcliffe, based on reports, was suicidal. As much support as she had from people around the world for her situation, when you're isolated like that, thoughts can dominate. A person in Tom Brady's situation, whether they're not being given the rightful consideration, or being overlooked or undervalued, or their situation is bullying sometimes as well. Not maybe in Tom Brady's situation, but I'm aware of some disturbing situations elsewhere where bullying and abuse happens of athletes, and the person can feel very sort of alone, isolated, and at a loss that they're never going to realize their dreams. That their dreams are being taken away from them. And this is why it's always good to be supportive, but not in an overly positive way, that lacks substance, but really offering structured support to people to show them that there are ways you can still achieve your goal. That the dependency doesn't have to be on the decisions of certain people. And even when it is the decisions of certain people that can decide your fate at times, what can you do to make sure that you're not overlooked again? And we'll go through examples like this in future videos, because it is a very important topic, and it's a personal topic that really interests me as well, so you can be guaranteed that we'll be covering it in detail. Collective support from external sources really does provide a lot of assurance. Unfortunately, the collective support comes for those situations where there is awareness of harm being undertaken towards someone or a group of people. And this is the guarantee that we come to. We can only care about situations or assist in situations or express our empathy and humanity for situations that we are aware of, things that are brought to our attention. The guarantee is there will be someone that you have awareness of, in terms of you know them by name, you know them by face. There is a guarantee that there is someone who will be suffering from something in isolation and will have feel difficulty in discussing it, or feel like that they have an avenue where they will feel encouraged, that they will be heard, or that there's value in them taking steps forward to get themselves out of that difficult situation. Yes, a lot of helplines and things exist, but for a lot of people, especially sometimes because of how they've been failed by other people before so many times, they have little faith that anyone's going to care or help them. And this is why it's important for us to build this channel, to have your support and have your help in sharing this post, this video, as well as raising the awareness and sharing the awareness of our channel, our Facebook page, our website, and so on and so forth. Because when you share and awareness is raised, people can make the connection and become aware of other avenues that may be more targeted towards them. A key part of the work that we've undertaken, and once again we'll discuss this in detail in another video, has been understanding societies, individuals and communities. What works, what doesn't work. How can we help individuals who have been harmed or are experiencing difficulties, are isolated, people that we don't know are suffering? How can we create a channel that serves not only the wider community, but every individual within that community? From talented individuals within a community to people who are hidden, but once a welcoming environment is created, that they'll feel comfortable to step into and make a contribution towards that community and society. People want to have an impact. They want to be somebody. This channel is about facilitating those opportunities for individuals and their communities to not only grow individually but also collectively as a community, wherever they may be around the world. We don't have the marketing budget to raise the awareness of this, but a small bit of effort, for which we'll be ever so grateful for, to help raise the awareness of this video, our channel, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our website, that helps tremendously. And it's just a simple effort. But the more you can help us by sharing, the more support we can get to undertaking the work that we need to do. As we've seen in the many examples through here, there are themes and experiences that travel across communities, that travel across locations. And just like one community may be experiencing some extreme amounts of stress or distress right now, there'll be another one in another year's time. Things can be cyclical. The current Ukraine crisis is an effort to make up for a previous loss by Russia when the USSR separated into multiple countries and trying to reclaim that. And just like various communities can experience similar difficult circumstances, you can bet individuals, whether they are individuals in the same community, individuals in the same country, or individuals all across the world, are experiencing things that they are suffering through in isolation. And it's because of these common experiences these common symptoms and impacts that result. That's why we can offer more universal solutions or more structured approaches so a person can understand that regardless of the type of grief or the type of suffering or the type of symptom that they're experiencing, how can they adopt a structure to help themselves get out? Sometimes people don't want you to directly help them. They just want the knowledge and the information and the resources to do it themselves because they want to hide that they ever were in that difficult experience. And that's fair enough. The main thing is whether a person is suffering in silence, whether they ever share what they experienced or not. The greater reward is helping them get out of it. And this is why your sharing of this video on our YouTube channel and Facebook page and website is so vital. And if you can support us through the various funding channels, Patreon, GoFundMe, or through our website, then that's most welcome. But the most important thing at this moment is increasing awareness and that everyone gives respect to the content that we're trying to share. But we ourselves are having to go through quite a difficult and challenging time to get this content out. Because of the research work that we do, because of the evidence gathering that we do, we have to suffer ourselves often as well. So apologies if at times the tone or the cadence isn't as smooth as it could be. You're often trying to process a difficult experience or hide a difficult experience for the meantime because you're trying to protect someone. So we sincerely appreciate any sort of respect in that regard and space. But eventually everything will be revealed. Step by step, at the right time, in the right format, while still protecting people who need to be kept safe. It's very important not to overlook isolated people who are suffering to something that people can't share in or probably understand straight away. And we've seen some really difficult examples of this where we've encountered people that were suffering alone. And rather than people understanding them, they side with their oppressor and gang up on them further, which makes them feel even more isolated and afraid to reach out and communicate with someone in the fear of being judged or mistreated further. There's no value in adding to someone's suffering. Either do nothing or stay away. But we can't be silent. We're not going to be silent. Just like Richard Radcliffe chose not to be silent, it's very encouraging to us for taking some of the approaches that we have. When you personally care about something, when the result of not taking any action is a personal loss, you have to take the action. You can't always rely on other people to respect and appreciate your personal circumstances. It's difficult, but that is the truth sometimes. But the more support people have, the more opportunities that they are aware of, the more avenues of hope that they are aware of that they can work towards getting themselves out of a hole or resolving a difficult situation, the better it is for all of us. We will experience less difficult incidents that way. evil requires silence. There's a video package upcoming very soon that really hammers this home, how evil wants witnesses and the majority to obey them and stay silent. But victims and those who are suffering, they need people to speak up. And as you're saying it, you just are reliving some of the tough experiences that you've encountered, where silence was demanded, but no, you don't do that. You speak up for the vulnerable. You speak up for victims. As difficult as it may be, speaking up is far less painful than what a victim or a vulnerable person would have gone through. That is the ultimate rebellion, isn't it? Not staying silent. Looking evil in the eyes and saying no. Not going to be silent. That's how things get resolved. Not by ignoring them, by facing them, delving in the darkness and bringing the truth to light. It's a theme we'll come to again and again. So that's the unfortunate guarantee that there will be someone that you are aware of, that whether you pass by them on the street, at work, somewhere in your community, in your family, or a gym or wherever you visit, whether you know them by name, whether you know them by face, there will be someone that you are aware of in some capacity that is suffering from something in isolation. What we have to do by creating videos like this with understanding, with more of a practical approach, not trying to be too scientific and going into the medical psychology side of it. There are plenty of people to do that. By raising the awareness of this post, this video, our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our website, what you are simply doing is moving things forward and creating opportunity for someone to achieve their potential. And all of the videos that we'll be doing in this entire series over the months and years to come are all simply about self-development, education, growth, individually and collectively, as people within community, society, social groups, you name it. But we genuinely need your help. It's a simple, kind request. Please share and help us raise the awareness of this channel so we can do far more valuable work than we've already done. In my past work history, which I abandoned to work in this area, I've dealt with funding programs in the billions, up to £52 billion a year. But none of that mattered as much as the work that we're doing now. This is far more important than any corporate gig, because this is about us as human beings, us as people within communities, us as individuals with our ambitions and our potential and whatever we want to experience and do in life, having the best chance to do it, whether we do that individually or collectively, because of our shared interests and so on and so forth. But please help ease our burden and allow us to focus on the production of quality content rather than figuring out marketing plans and so on and so forth. One of the things that will be a common theme, and to prove our unquestionableness to you and to yours, is going to be evidence. We always have and will always continue to build trust through truth and integrity. And the truth and integrity are proven through evidence. That's how you have a situation where there is no doubt about your intentions, your experiences, or any statements that you make in a video package or platform as this. When you are backed by evidence, you can't be denied. And that's been a key theme from the very start, is to make sure that we develop something that people could have total trust and faith in, where we can be open, transparent, and as generous as possible in sharing knowledge and truth, and doing it all through genuine integrity and care. As we will end most of these videos, let's not just hope. Let's work towards that morning when we will rise to find that our sons and daughters won't live among lies. This is about us. All of us. Unquestionably us. Thank you.